15 billion naira. That is what the Nigerian government finally agreed to pay after 14 years of court battles for burning an entire town off the map. Not a road, not a hospital. 15 billion naira for what a federal high court judge called a brazen violation of the right to simply stay alive. Woo! Because I'm asking you to think. Because in about 8 minutes, you are going to learn the full story of a town called Odi. A story the Nigerian government has spent 25 years forcing and hoping you will never ask about. Odi was a town roughly about 60,000 people on the back of River Nun in Bayelsa State. Its people fished, they farmed, and processed palm oil. Shell Petroleum operated 3 oil wells there. On the 4th of November 1999, an armed gang killed 7 policemen near the town. 5 more police officers were killed in the days that followed. President Olusegun Obasanjo gave Bayelsa State a 14-day ultimatum to hand over the killer or face a state of emergency. Before that deadline expired, on the 20th of November 1999, the Nigerian military launched what it called Operation Restore Hope. What restore was not hope. Soldiers deployed with heavy artillery, naval gunboats, and helicopters. By the time they were done, every building in Odi had been burned to the ground, except the bank, the Anglican church, and the health center. And even the church was not a sanctuary. Survivors said soldiers killed people who are taking refuge inside it. Here is what almost never makes it into the retelling. The gang that killed the policemen was not Odi's uprising against the state. According to Odi's own community development chairman, Godfrey Nwega, speaking to Premium Times, the gang known as the Asanwana Boys had originally been armed and recruited by the then Bayelsa governor, Dipriye Alamesi Egba, to work for him during the 1999 governorship election. After he won, he abandoned them. Left without pay or protection, they turned violent, clashed with police in Yanagwa, fled and took over Odi as a hideout, holding the community itself hostage in the process. Niwenga said Odi's own leader tried to push the gang out and could not. He told Premium Times, "We are peaceful in nature. The military came anyway." You know, most times when we tell people that the problem we have in this country most time are politicians. Have you heard how this group that went about killing people even came about in the first place? That is even how Boko Haram came about. That is how most of these talks came about. Because there's a politician somewhere that must win an election and is ready to do anything. And this is how these Asawanga boys also came about. You will hear the word ambushed used by military to justify what happened next. The army claimed that as soldiers approached Udi, gang members opened fire on them first, and that triggered the assault. Independent human rights investigations, including Human Rights Watch, disputed that this justified what followed. Gang member opened fire and the whole town was wiped out. The destruction of an entire town, not a targeted strike on the gang, but an entire town. The human cause has never been settled to this day. Human Rights Watch concluded that soldiers must certainly have killed tens of unarmed civilians, with figures of several hundred dead entirely possible. Nimo Bassey, then head of Environmental Rights Action, put the to closer to about 2,500 people. The Nigerian government official figure was 43 dead, of course, you know those, including 8 soldiers. Human rights group also documented sexual violence against women during the operation and a related assault by soldiers in the nearby community of Chuba, Rivers State. Niwenga himself lost his brother, his mother, and his father that day. He told Premium Time that his other brother was shot and all his intestine gushed out. He said it was an unforgettable day. Odi will not forget that incident even in the next 100 years. It took until February 2013, 14 years later, for a federal high court in Port Harcourt to rule. Justice Lambo Akanbi ordered the federal government to pay 37.618 billion in compensation after reviewing video evidence of machine guns, bombs, helicopter gunship used against the town. He called it a brazen violation of the fundamental human right of the victim to movement, to life, and to own property and live peacefully in their ancestral home. He gave the government 3 weeks to pay. 3 weeks. The government did not pay 37.6 billion. In May 2014, under President Goodluck Jonathan, the federal government negotiated the case down to a final settlement of 15 billion, less than half of what the court ordered. Disputes over the money followed. The chairman of the compensation committee overseeing the funds was later kidnapped and eventually released. You will sometimes hear lawyers in this case describe the operation as having a genocidal outcome. That is the specific legal terms. It means the scale and manner of the violence looked less like restoring order and more like an attempt to destroy a community. It is one of the most serious accusations you can level at a state-owned military. And ex-president Obasanjo was in charge. No soldier has ever been prosecuted for what happened in Odi. Not the commandants, not the men who pulled the trigger. 25 years on, it remains a closed compensation file and an open wound. And Odi was not the last time this happened. In October 2001, less than 2 years later, Nigerian soldiers carried out a near identical operation in Benue State, killing at least 100 civilians in revenge for the murder of 19 soldiers. Human Rights Watch said it plainly at the time. The lessons of Odi have not been learned. No one was persecuted for Benue either. The facts are on ground. This is a very painful one. I'm here to just play it plain. If this is your first time you are hearing Odi's name, tell me in the comments and tag somebody who needs to hear it too. Follow this channel on YouTube so you never miss the stories that you will rather not forget. I have so much to offer this week because I took time off over the weekend to really do some researches.